Hello, my name is Brant Hutt. My channel simply is discerning what is true. I'm going to be talking about an issue today that I've been reading from a particular book, which is simply called Kabbalah and Exodus. This is from chapter 20 of the book, which is I'm reading from. The author, his name is Zev Ben Shimon Halevi, who was a Kabbalist many years ago. He's written many books in the past. So I want to know more about what what he talks about, and that's why I'm reading the book. So the title of the chapters could be called Preparation. And so I'm going to change the background here for me to be able to read it a little bit easier. Today is the 19th? No, the 20th. Wow, this month's going by really quick. Okay, so it's called Preparation, Exodus 19. So let's get reading into this book. In the third month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai. This means that the Israelites had passed through their 3 lunar cycles and had come to the first quarter of the Hebrew year, or what we call midsummer. If the moon is the symbol of Yesod, the ego, and the sun of Temporal, the self, then the time he speaks of a crucial event related to the significance of the summer solstice. In the ancient world, the solace was celebrated by a great festival which marked a cosmic moment as the flow of the universe changed its state in the turning point between seasons. Such an event was considered a transformation in creation, and therefore in the spirit, which correspond to the cosmic world. The Israelites proceeded into the wilderness until they pitched their camp before the holy mountain. Now, the word Sinai means both a high cliff and a deep raven. And let's see, look at this particular book, since it's talking about a name here that we don't normally see. So we're going to look at that here. So, which is Sinai. We take these words when we were children, teenagers, even adults. Okay, Sinai. Okay, that's okay. Well, to be quite honest with you, is there another Sinai? In other words, these words come up as what I would call very strange words, very strange names. People say, well, that's different in the Middle East. Well, yes, I can agree with that. But the other thing simply is that they have something else there trying to reveal to people if people are aware of it. So I'm seeing if I can find it here. No, it does not. It does not for some reason. So let me look at something else here. Let me look at the larger book here. I'm just wanting to know type of thing. So just bear with me. Yes, it is here. Sinai, Hebrew, cliff, deep ravine, precipitous, I should say, sharp, jagged cliff with ravens, or cleft, I should say, with ravens. ravines. I'm sorry. What did I get ravens at? Ravines. I'm sorry. Uh, a wilderness into which the Israelites came the third month after they left Egypt. The mount or chain of mountains in which Moses entered the law in Exodus base 19, 1 through 25. The northern part of this chain was called Horeb, Horeb, is what it's called, and the southern was called the Sinai. So this is a book here I bought, I guess, probably 2 years ago, maybe less. Anyway, not get all wrapped up in that. Let's get back to what we're looking at. This can be seen symbolically as a steep rising up into the heavens or a profound going down into the spirit. In other words, that reveals again the pillars, the whole idea. You see, temporal is part of the bottom, so to speak, and higher up, so to speak, which is where you have the two major pillars, but you also have a middle pillar also. Here Moses ascended the mount. Interesting, it says the word ascended, the mount. In other words, he went up high above all others and conversed with God. Of course he did. That's talking about up here in your head. You went up all the way up to your head here. So he's conversing with God about the house of Israel and the children of Israel. This is a clear distinction between two levels of Hebrews. The former represents the inner core of elders who are spiritually initiated, and the latter of those immature in such matters. Confirmation of this comes as the Lord speaks of how the divine has borne aboard the Israelites on eagle's wings into the place of the holy presence here on the holy mountain. This symbol of the eagle is not just poetic imagery, but a precise cipher for the variety or spiritual world. You see, the eagle is one of the major four. Remember that in Ezekiel. You remember the four worlds. You have the lion, you have the eagle, you have the anyway, we have the man, and we have the what's the other one? Anyone else? Lion? Oh, the bull. The bull. And I would assume that they're talking about also the bull would be Taurus. Line. I can't remember all of my head here. Sometimes I have to look them up sometimes. The eagle meaning something I was saying it would be the air. But anyway, let's not get caught up in that. Out of this raising up from bondage comes the possibility of being a real service to God. So they're in bondage to sin here, you see. Okay. If you obey my voice in deeds and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all peoples. This is based upon Exodus chapter 19, verses 6. Seen on the individual scale, this is the kind of conversation that occurs deep within the person during the preparation period before initiation of a commitment. The still small voice presents the offer to the awakening soul as it looks up from the base of the internal holy mountain. And you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, and a holy nation, end quote. Now, why this had historical implications for the Jews? It applies equally to the individual as he or she strives to organize the unruly tribes within the psyche into a united whole or holy kingdom. So we're talking about your head again, your psyche. All this was said. It's always dealing with that, folks. It's dealing with something deeper within. It's not talking about anything to do with literalization. It's not talking about anything to do with history, because there is no history. Biblical archaeological studies have proven basically they can't find anything around. They can't find it. Of course they can't find it. These are not literal. This is what perplexes you. They'll spend 50, 100 years looking for this stuff, and they're not going to find it. This is a different language, you see. We're just beginning to see these things, folks. Remember, Christianity started roughly around 2,000 years ago. Not quite, but close to that age. All this was said on the mountain to Moses, who, as a representative of the house of Israel, was to transmit the message to the children of Israel below. Quote, and Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord had commanded him. It's based upon Exodus chapter 19, 7. The elders, representing the superior aspects of the psyche, agreed that they would do as the Lord commands. So let me say this much. Let's compare this. There is, in the last 150 years, roughly, man has been now not only looking out in space, but he's also looking within our own heads. Okay, and psychology has become a big deal. But if you go back further than that, there is no interest in psychology because man has not yet grown to come to that particular portion, you see. You see, this is part of God's goodness and mercy, you see, because we've all been in darkness. So the elders representing the superior aspects of the psyche agreed that they would do as the Lord commanded. This answer was conveyed via the intimacy or conscious level of Moses to the divine. So Moses obviously had a close relationship because he basically was talking to the divine. Okay, within himself, who replied, quote, lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud that the people may hear when I speak with thee, end quote. Again, this is based upon Exodus 19, verse 9. Kabbalahically, that is, this is to say that the divine will descend out of Azilut, A-Z-I-L-U-T, the world of pure light, into Bariah, the world of air, the air sign, the element, and to Yazara, the world of water, which in brackets says, which combine to make mists, so that the levels of the lower psyche may experience the divine presence. So all this is talking about something. This is, we go back to the Egyptians. They're talking about this, but they have used the different words with it. They use different words. They use metaphors, but they also use different names. As this is why the characteristics of these people. So there's this woman would be simply a sky god, and then there would be the man at the bottom, such and such, and he would be the earth. So she was representing air, and he was representing earth. You see, if you would read the famous guy, the British guy. I'll get to it. It'll come in my mind. That follows a detailed instructions on how the children of Israel must make themselves fit to perceive the presence of God. In other words, you just don't just simply walk up there, so to speak. You see, they must wash their clothes. That is, cleanse their psyches so that no impurity may prevent them from entering a lucid state. Do you understand what's going on here? Entering a lucid state and not sleep with their wives. Now, what does that mean? Could that be simply is so that the body is quintessential and does not distract the attention? Interesting. These are practices common to all traditions in preparation for initiation. So another word for ascension is initiation. The process, this is amazing. The process is to last 3 days. Of course it is. Of course it is. We know the simple thing with Jesus when he ascended, such and such, he died. It was 3 days. They're sharing the information in the New Testament, revealing this, and no one has a clue of what is going on. So they think that there's a tomb, so to speak, that they're looking. They claim that such and such they found that tomb. That's bonkers, folks. That's not even telling the truth. You see, the church has to allow this to create this crap to keep people in a maze, keep them from finding the truth. That's how critical this stuff is. And the guys who come along in this time are parts of God's mercy and grace to reveal this to this age, to this time period. So we go back here. The process to last 3 days so as to affect the past, present, and future. So it completes everything, going all the way to your past, present, and also your future. In this way, the being is made wholly receptive. Whereas they'll be willing. Moses is further instructed to set bounds upon the people not to ascend the mountain. Well, they're not going to come to the mountain because simply is, guess what? They're not ready yet. This is to safeguard anyone who thinks he is ready to go up alone and face God. Of course so. Of course so. Of course. They're not worthy yet. They're not ready. They haven't done the heart. They haven't done the work. Which people with little knowledge and less experience in spiritual matters often want to do. Of course they do, but it is not going to be shown to those who are not willing to do the work, the great work. The barriers are also in order to build up physical and psychological discipline, as the abstinence from sex and psychological containment begin to focus their power into considerable head of present pressure. The severe injunctions of stoning or shooting any who break the barriers are more to deter and save the ignorant and the innocent from themselves than to punish them. Of course it is. They're not prepared. They're not ready. If something was shown to them, completely blow them away. They're not ready. That's what they had in mystery schools too. Thus, the Israelites were placed into a state of readiness as they waited the sound of the trumpet call from the holy mountain. Seen in terms of an individual here is a person who is about to be taken through an initiation ceremony. He has agreed to a commitment and awaits the moment when he will formally hear the rules of the spiritual tradition and promise to bear witness to them. Such a covenant is not to be taken lightly by anyone, for while such a declaration grants privileges which make the person, quote, a peculiar treasure, end quote, to God. It also means that special duties are to be performed in this transaction between the divine and man. This is revealing all what we should be looking for, because simply is it has nothing about being in a physical world, you see, because we're spiritual beings. And the only way we can actually do that is to come to earth to experience what I call the physical world. So when you're in the spirit world, you have no clue what it's like to be in a body, because there's no such thing as that when you're in the spirit world. And when I'm saying spirit world, you would claim you'd have all these, well, it can't be that hard. It's not that hard to love people here, such and such. So it should be pretty easy to do that down there on earth. Yeah. No, it's quite the opposite. It's impossible almost, you see, unless you reincarnate many times here to just determine this, you see. This is why this stuff like this, talking about this stuff, they're sharing truth, but no one understands. No one's prepared, you see. And I'm sure there were very few that actually were prepared, even at that time. I could be wrong yet. I haven't read the whole book yet. It also means that special duties are to be performed in this transaction between the divine and man, because the contrast is freely entered into by the individual. He is given plenty of time to ponder it as he prepares to undergo the initiation of Sinai. That is a high in a deep place between the lower and the upper worlds. The opening solemnity of the occasion is symbolized in Exodus 19:19 by the trumpet, thunder, and lightning. These sounds and sight from the holy mountain generate awe of the Lord, which tradition states is the first step towards wisdom. And it is the first step of wisdom, you see. So again, this is the end of the chapter here. I know it's not a very long chapter. There is only by the help of Phil Langdon, that I've spent now 2-3 years with, so to speak, talking with him, I understand some of this. I don't understand it all. I'm not claiming that. No way. I'm not going to do that. So, but the point simply is now you can see this is being, now, someone who's not initiated, I guess I wouldn't use that word, but someone who's not interested in this will never figure this out. Of course not. It's not meant for the many at this point, you see. It's only for the few. This is what boggles my mind about Christianity. Because Christianity, is out there, missionaries, people doing preaching, all these things, and nothing's changing. Nothing's changing, folks. In fact, we can look at the statistics with those who are Christians, and we can look at statistics of those who are not Christians, and we can look at the divorce rate, and it's almost identical. It's almost identical, which reveals simply is there's nothing different about these people. You see, nothing happened with me. Okay, nothing all this stuff, such and such, what we're taught, and the whole idea. They talk about this whole thing. The whole idea of, we maybe talk about that, maybe the issue with Phil, the idea of justification and sanctification. The church has taught that. That's a doctrine in the church. Okay, that comes from Augustine. The idea that simply is that you're justified by God, but you're not yet sanctified. Now, I don't know, and me and Phil can talk about, is this related to what I call the two steps, okay, which is also revealed by the keys at the Catholic Church, which is the gold key and the silver key. One represents simply is that you have had initiation, but you met God inside of you, but you don't quit. You never, what I would call the second part would be, why did it happen? What was my purpose? Why did this happen to me? I'm nobody special, which is what Phil talks about. So he's nobody special. I'm no better than anybody else. Which he was honest with himself. He's not any better than anybody else. And so this reveals simply is, as in some ways with the same thing with the Catholic Church. He says, we talked about this a couple of years ago. Why me? Why not? I'm no better than anybody else. Why did God choose me? Why did this happen to me? Why did ascension happen to me? He contemplated this when he came back to London, spent time by himself. Why me? I've done bad things. I've done awful things, such and such. Why would God reveal himself to me? You see. Anyway, I don't want to make it too long. Just a very short chapter. I just wanted to read this thing to you and appreciate you listening. Check out Phil Langdon. He's the real deal. I'm serious. I don't get compensated by this. I wouldn't be spending my time in doing these things, these videos, and trying to understand more about this because if it wasn't for real, I wouldn't be involved. And the whole idea, this is the other thing simply about this whole issue is that the whole idea with Zen is it simply is there's not a two-step process. It's just a one step. And people talk about certain things happen to them, but you gotta see what happened to them afterwards. You see. Okay, Thank you very much for listening, and wish you a good day, and you take care.